When do we achieve personhood? Is it something we always have since the moment we are born, or is it something given to us by our interactions with others, or the accumulation of memories? In the 1972 science fiction film Solaris, we drift through these questions, weightlessly, as if through space or floating across an ocean. Kris Kelvin is tasked with boarding the space station that orbits the remote planet of Solaris. When he arrives, he learns that one cosmonaut, Gibarian, has committed suicide, and the surviving men, Sartorious and Snaut, warn Kelvin that he may begin seeing things. Visitors to the station. These visitors are created through some phenomena of Solaris, reaching into the memories of the men on the space station and creating new people. The planet manifests Hari, a replicated version of Kelvin's deceased wife. He struggles with how much of the real Hari she could be, and she struggles with her improbable existence. Due to being created from his memories and her appearance, Kelvin treats her as if she were the real Hari, the original Hari. However, what if the planet created multiple versions of Hari at the same time? How could they all be the real Hari, and what makes someone real to begin with? To 17th century English philosopher John Locke, Autobiographic Memory was the key to personhood, to being a person, to existing as a person. Consciousness alone makes self. Nothing but consciousness can unite remote existences into the same person. The identity of substance will not do it, for whatever substance there is, however framed, without consciousness there is no person, and a carcass may be a person, as well as any sort of substance be so, without consciousness. What Locke meant was that the self resides in the consciousness, which he believed to be memory. Certainly not the body, because, as he said, that would mean a corpse could be considered a person. In Solaris, we see the memories of Kelvin, that of his late wife, create a new Hari. By Locke's definition of what is considered a person, does Hari qualify as she is the physical manifestation of memories? She may not be the original Hari, but she at least appears to be a person. When she is examined, Hari is determined to be made of a different substance than Kelvin and the other cosmonauts, indeed all human beings, but her memories are what makes Hari Hari, not the physical. This is roughly similar to a thought experiment by Locke. Imagine there exists a prince and a cobbler. The cobbler dies, and through some miracle of science or what have you, the prince's consciousness is transported into the body of the cobbler. Would the prince's consciousness suddenly think of himself as a cobbler, or would he still remember himself and consider himself a prince? When Hari first appears on the space station, she seems to have no autobiographic memory, as she was gifted existence by Kelvin and the planet. Seemingly failing the Lockean personhood test, Kelvin rids himself of her by sending her away in a rocket. However, as soon as Hari's second iteration is given a chance to exist for a little while on the space station, she accumulates her own autobiographic memory. Not just what Kelvin's memory gave her. She now has her own experiences on the station and with Kelvin and the other cosmonauts. By Lockean standards, she has achieved personhood. Belief in memory as the primary qualification for personhood creates certain problems, though. What if Hari suddenly lost all her memories? Would she no longer exist? What if Kelvin suffered an accident while on the space station and had amnesia? Does that mean Kelvin no longer exists, and that we should treat whatever is left inside the body of Kelvin as a completely distinct individual? Should we burn his birth certificate and cancel his bank accounts? When Kelvin introduces the new Hari to Sartorious, the cosmonaut explains that all of Solaris' new creations are made of neutrinos. To Sartorious, this alone disqualifies Hari from personhood. If the building blocks of the body are the only thing that makes or breaks Hari's personhood, what if Sartorious were changed by the power of Solaris from his normal matter to neutrinos overnight? What if Solaris decided to do this as an experiment? Everything else stayed the same, his memories, his name. He would just be made of new stuff. Would he no longer be a person? If he could still think to himself, still perceive his consciousness, how would he account for that? Gibarian, in a recorded message, says, quote, "We don't want to conquer the cosmos. We want to extend the boundaries of Earth to the cosmos. We are only seeking man. We don't want other worlds, we want mirrors." Unquote. Maybe he has a point. Are the cosmonauts searching for life on other worlds, or are they searching for confirmation of humanity's importance? Are they examining Solaris because it is so alien, or are they searching for meaning in their own lives? Solaris does not teach them about the cosmos, it teaches them about themselves. It connects the cosmonauts to other people, apparitions from the past, not to an alien world. 18th century German philosopher Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel believed that the self is essentially a social construction, meaning we are who we are only insofar as we are understood to be by others. The cosmonauts are not searching for new planets, they are searching for connections. Their existence, all existence, is not independent. It is dependent on our interactions and connections with others. By this standard, the recreated Hari is real because her realness is dependent on Kelvin. One's selfhood cannot be determined in isolation. Self-consciousness is faced with another self-consciousness. It has come out of itself. This has a twofold significance. First, it has lost itself, for it finds itself as another being. Secondly, in doing so, it has superseded the other, for it does not see the other as an essential being, but in the other sees its own self. This is in contrast to the more solipsistic quote from René Descartes, "I think, therefore I am," because to Hegel, and perhaps to Kelvin, existence comes from mutual recognition. Let's explore that as it relates to Solaris. Hari is fabricated onto the space station and into reality without a clear idea of who she is or how she was even created. Because she was created through Kelvin's memories, everything she is comes from his memory of her. Since Kelvin has no memory of how this Hari was made, because how could he, she does not know either. Her consciousness is a literal version of what Hegel proposed in the abstract. Her existence, her selfhood, is dependent on another. Do we exist if nothing else in the universe could perceive us to exist? It is the personhood and metaphysical version of a lone tree falling in the woods paradox. Hegel called the dependent consciousness a slave, yet Hari engages in the process of what Hegel would call negating the other's otherness by trying to free herself. Even though her initial existence was formed entirely through Kelvin's memories, she grows by convincing Kelvin to think of her as an independent person. When Kelvin does this, Hari becomes one. We are who others believe us to be, and in the case of Solaris, this is quite literal. We are defined through the eyes of other people, and without other people, we could not have any meaningful concept of self. Towards the end of the film, Kelvin and Snaut discuss their experiences. Kelvin wonders about the meaning of existence, the meaning of love. Snaut claims that thinking about the big questions is something for the end of life only, but Kelvin responds that we never really know when our lives will end. To Snaut, the big questions of philosophy only make us unhappy, and the happiest people he knows do not think about anything so significant. Ignorance, perhaps, is bliss. Can philosophy make us unhappy? Well, sure, there are some Arthur Schopenhauer works that can be rather pessimistic, and Albert Camus can be a little bleak. Studying different points of views of different philosophers can lead some astray from the religion they were taught as children, and sometimes there is nothing more earth-shattering than learning the foundation upon which one built one's view of the universe might be false. But unhappiness is not the aim of philosophy. Kelvin wonders if something so necessary to life can also harm life. And he's speaking about love here, but this is also true of philosophy. It can harm, but philosophy also teaches us ethics. It teaches us politics. It teaches us our outlook on the universe and so much more. Philosophy can drag us away from our religions for some, but it can prop them up for other people. There are many theistic philosophers. Plus, for some, being pulled from faith, apostatizing, is not inherently negative. It can be rather freeing. Accepting one's limited role in the universe at a glance can make one feel insignificant and meaningless, but another way to think of it is there is no real pressure. The very end shows that Kelvin appears to have decided to stay behind on Solaris and live in a neutrino creation of his life. Will Hari be materialized as well? We are not told. Kelvin can never go home again in the figurative sense, so he may as well not go home again literally. He can never be who he once was. Maybe the ending, much like whether or not philosophy can make us unhappy, depends on how we look at it. Has Kelvin given up on life by leaving Earth, or has he embraced it by making a life of his own? Hi everyone. If you like what I do, please click on the orange Patreon link below. That's how this show happens. It's also how you can request an episode. There are also a lot of other perks for being a patron, so check it out. The information is on my Patreon page. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you next week.